Yeah, the substitute for Renska in the mid lane. They took House out for this week, who was actually number 2 on the damage leaderboard. So they've brought in Enga instead, who has yet to play a single game in CBLOL 2021. So we'll have to see how this slots in when you take out your biggest damage dealer and put in a new face.
Yeah, I'm curious because How's, as much as he was putting up the damage numbers, I think that I expressed this to you on my own RMC. I felt
Mhm.
that he maybe was playing a little bit scared, and that Rensga as a whole are playing that way. They're very, very passive players more often than not, and are afraid to commit. If you get Enga, maybe a new face, a new mid laner who does like to go a little bit more aggressive, push your advantages, maybe you start to find some of those converting into game wins here. They've got first pick and are hovering Quinn, and that would certainly be an aggressive take. Camille, a lot safer. It will end up being the Kaisa, though, putting a lot of priority for Trigo.
Yep, and I mean, that ADC priority has been a thing, for the last couple of weeks. Maybe not so much today, but it looks like both these teams have kinda handshaked and agreed, we are gonna prioritize ADC first, and I guess, this is why I was thinking the teams might be a fairly even matchup because of the way they play and as well as how they've performed so far here. Neither team has really impressed me and really stepped up necessarily. Rensga, they've been scrappy, they've been willing to try stuff, but the execution's been kind of flawed. Cruzeiro, on the other hand, they play fairly standard and just nothing kind of stands out. And unfortunately, if you're bland, you tend to start to fall behind.
And this is going to be the time that I'd like to see Renska take the step forward with their replacement mid laner, because otherwise these are two of of very similar teams. You got passive, and just kind of coin flipping these mid game team fights. And Nivea's been hovered for a really long time here.
Ye That would definitely be a change up, and I mean, if you are gonna change your mid laner, you'd kind of expect something different, either playstyle or champion pool. Something's gotta change here. If not, there was no point switching it out. They do instead go for the Nidalee here. Again, good matchup against the Graves as well, but not paired yet with top laners, so we'll have to see if that does get banned out. I somewhat would expect, the Renekton to get banned out, considering that Renekton has been that go-to top laner despite its less than 50% win rate here.
You've also got the chance to pick it up, but never mind. It will be the Alistair pickup, which is very nice in and of itself. It's not Rakan
Mhm.
that you might have been able to pair with something like Zaya, but will give you a lot more bulletproof ability as we go into the second phase of the draft, where Renska will, of course, be looking to punish the bot lane duo that has been locked in with perhaps like mid laners and top laners that can counter their ability. Alistair, a lot less counterable right now.
Yeah, we spoke about the Eclipse and the Unbreakable Will here. Both of those abilities for the Leona and Alistair, respectively, just make them so tanky. It's difficult to find a great punish champion. Sure, you can poke them, but everything's been locked in. We're just looking at the solo lanes now. And really, if you look at how the drafts have gone today, it's not been the solo lanes being left at the end for counter picks so far. It's been kind of a mad rush for picking up priority champions. We've seen Renekton being picked up early, Camille, Gragas, high focus on those champions. Gragas is still potentially on the table here, as we expected the Renekton ban, but it wasn't Cruzeiro banning it. It's Renska banning it, denying it away from their own Nidalee. It's nowhere near as scary when you pair it with a Graves compared to a Nidalee.
That's interesting. With the Renekton takeaway, do you think this translates to a focus bot side? Because Renekton is the classic pairing with Nidalee to try and have a topside focus to get kills on her. But you've got Leona in bot. Maybe they take that away just as a nobody gets to play this topside focus.
I am honestly unsure because they're focusing so heavily on the top lane right now that I feel like they might still want to throw it into the top lane continuously still to try and get that off. Yes, Nidalee can gank the bot lane, especially with a Leona here, but it's just not. Well, it could work, and the Syndra would have been a great pairing, but it's Cruzeiro once again picking it up. We've seen Nosferus on it before. It's really, really solid. And are they going to go with the Irelia counter pick? It's a solid counter pick, but I don't know. I don't know enough about Enga to know if it's worth it to pick that into Nosferus of all people.
You said it was either a switch up of playstyle or champion. Rayleigh would do that. So will
Yeah.
Yone, interestingly enough.
Okay, I actually would have preferred, personally, the Yasuo pickup over the Yone pickup. There's a huge difference in how they play. Yone is really good at playing aggressively, offensively, especially getting picks 1v1. Yasuo much better at team fights, and the win wall brings so much utility. I feel like into the likes of a Syndra, a Xayah, and a Graves. A well placed win wall can mess up a lot, and I feel like to wait all the way to the end to pick up the Camille, it doesn't feel like the optimal draft, but it's still a really solid pickup. And Renska have themselves power picks almost across the board here, though they are somewhat, I feel. Well, I was gonna say they're somewhat lacking in magic damage, but I guess between Nidalee and Kaisa, it's good enough.
I'm thinking about it. There we go. They do lock in the Malphite here, which will be quite
Hmm.
nice. It'll help Cruzeiro be able to weather the storm of Camille a little bit better, but will make things difficult for them because Malphite doesn't have a whole lot of autonomy when it comes to his own laning phase. Very much a team fight go button that they will be thankful that they have come mid game, but will need to weather through what might be a lane kingdom for Renska.
Yeah, that's exactly what it feels like here. Kind of similar to what we saw last game from Flamengo and Red, where Rensga, they have such strong individual power picks. But when I look at their team fight, yes, they do have one, right? You've got a Leona. The moment you pick up a Leona, you've already got some team fight insurance. It kind of doesn't matter. It's not as important that you pick up more AoE CC. Yone can do really, really well as well in these AoE team fights. But when you compare it to the likes, of that Malphite, of that Alistair, the pick potential coming through from that Syndra as well, and even Graves in team fights, I think does more than an Italy does. I feel like Cruzeiro has a better team composition. So if they can survive the initial burst, I think they've got a pretty good chance of it, especially when you pick a Malphite. We said that one of the problems that Cruzeiro has is they're passive. They don't like to go in. Malphite, I feel like it's the biggest, quickest answer to that. Press R and go. That's it. If he doesn't press R, I don't know what you're putting him on that champion for whatsoever. And once he does press R, that's a big red go button.
And that's going to be such a test and perhaps a testament, but it feels like right now maybe a difficult one to pass for Trucklax, who has been one of the more passive top laners. We haven't seen him really be able to put on carry performances, and so I would like to see him be able to at least enable the utility. Malphite is a pick that we've seen go sour. Even the observers are focusing this right now, though, is not only is it a nice new champion, it's a nice new skin.
Yeah, I'm actually not. I don't even know what that skin is.
Is that
I
FPX Malphite?
Oh,
Or is
is
it
it?
SKT Malphite? It's one of those two, right? Because
No,
with
it's
the
not SKT.
you're right, SKT would be a little bit more flary. I think it might be FPX.
Oh, I haven't seen the FPX line actually, so
I'm
that's really
gonna
cool.
yeah, I'm gonna double check that as it is just spears
I
being
mean,
checked anyway.
when I said like the big red go button, I didn't actually literally mean it was red. So it's kind of nice that it's orangey red. Kind of fits into that.
You know, wearing the skin of a world champion, which I've now confirmed is in fact
Okay.
FPX Malphite.
You know what the other FPX skins are since you're checking them? Because I
Uh,
like I said, I'm not aware of any of them. So
hmm I know we got Vayne in there somewhere. I think we have Vayne in there somewhere. Um,
surely that must be Nautilus for Doing B.
yeah, let's see. I think okay. Here's the lineup: Thresh, a nondescript man, Gangplank, Vayne, and who is this nondescript man? I don't know who this. Oh, wait, I'm looking for the nondescript man. It's Lee Sin. Lee Sin is a nondescript man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just looking at the actual graphics of the skins, and I was like, I don't know what to make of this.
That's hilarious. I mean, if you can't even identify the champ, is that really good design choice?
Yeah, I don't know. To be fair, Lee Sin is one of those champions. I don't know if you've read a lot about the way that Riot designs their champions in I don't know, in whatever room they design them in, but they try and make each champion have a unique outline, which is really nice, and I think it's a really cool thing. Lee Sin is one of those that's kind of hard to do. He's just a dude,
Fair enough. Yeah.
wearing all
Yeah. I
that
mean,
skin tight clothing.
not
So
everybody can have 5 guns silhouetted behind them.
exactly, Camille with her blade legs, and I guess Malphite's pretty hard to miss as well. Do you know Malphite is a living. I know this sounds really dumb because it's like obvious that he is, but it's also really not obvious. He's a living rock. Nosferus might not be living for too much longer. Froststrike is here with the red buff, but doesn't get tagged by the red buff importantly, so it doesn't have to burn anything to get out.
Yeah, I mean, he is the monolithic shard, so yeah, makes sense that he is a chunk of rock there. And the way he just soaks up damage too. Rock solid.
It is rock solid. I'm happy you pointed that out. I hope we get like a thumbs up graphic to put up with him. Shrigo and
Oh.
Klein on a very early roam are gonna encounter a level 3 Sting. He should.
Oh.
What's happening right now? Shrigo is so far up here, but with the flash over, Sting is the one
One
in
more.
trouble. Burns down and gives over first blood.
We wanted to see proactivity, but not like this thing. Okay, so there's an interesting stat actually we talked about off screen, and
Yeah.
that is that the death leader right now in the entire CBLOL is Sting, who dies an average of 5.3 deaths each and every single game. And the second highest death leader right now is actually Cleon from Rensga, specifically because of his set game, who dies an average of 5 deaths a game. So I was expecting a lot of bloodshed also because the teams like to fight and they have the death leaders, but Sting, not like this, mate.
Yeah, that set game was pretty rough. I'll be super honest here. Froststrike looking to make this rough for Trucklax though. They've got a lot of damage here. The stun comes in.
Oh, good
Trucklax flashes Kiari flashing out from under the turret, and Trucklax surviving on
Oh.
just under 100 HP. They could go for this again. Kiari searches for it, doesn't quite find it. Eats a turret shot, but will survive. And Trucklax with the 1v2 outplay makes it out alive.
Makes it out alive. Flashes blown as well from both Kiari and Frost Strike. So a big win for Cruzeiro there to make up for that first blood. And it really feels like proactivity right now. Both teams are trying to be proactive, which I appreciate. It's not working out though.
We're still gonna Malphite up here. I'm searching for the spear, even on the mini map. I know that Froststrike is around there, so it could come in here. Doesn't quite land. Trucklax not caught shopping.
Hold on, another one. Cooldown
Yeah.
on that. Okay, this one whiffed.
That guy's a legend. Trucklax gets the MVP for only that. Unfortunately, we'll have to burn his TP to get back to lane, which is the rough part of this.
Yeah, because the wave was pushing out. It didn't bounce properly, so the wave management wasn't there, and Kiari able to just soak everything by walking back. So TP advantage to Renska on top of First Blood. They've got a couple of small little advantages there. What can they do with it is always the biggest question, because we've already seen 2 failed attempts at proactivity, one apiece for each team here, with Dragon already up, and it's an Ocean Drake here. I want to see them focus their priorities onto neutral objectives here a little bit rather than just focus on kills.
That would be really nice. You've already got a decent chunk of gold, and honestly, the first blood going over to Leona gives her additional income to be able to help you set these objectives up, additional tankiness on top of that, and already out of lane, additional map pressure. So first dragon should be going over to Rensga, barring a very small misplay. Enga, the relative unknown, though, I'm still looking to become the focus of the game. Has hit the level 6 now, finally, on this Yone. And it would be really nice if we could see him step up and take some aggressive moves that we're hoping he'll bring to the roster.
Yeah, and being level 6 is quite important for that Yone as well. Gives him a lot more team fight strength, and he being 6 means he can rotate here. If he was Yasuo, he wins this lane against Syndra with the wind wall blocking the unleashed power. But without it, Enga has to be careful. If he gets hit by Scatter of the Weak followed by that unleashed power, when he tries to go in, he ends up automatically losing that trade. So they don't necessarily have prio mid. I want to see Froststrike land a spear. If he lands 1 or 2 good spears, Dragon is his.
Oh, it doesn't land that one. His Sting did have the dash to get away there. Quick draw. Actually, interestingly, I wanted to point this out. Gives you tanky stats when you go towards people, but not away from people. And I think that's one of my favorite mechanics in the game. Of like the do it, dash into me, you coward, but just enforced by Riot Games.
I don't think anybody has ever accused Sting of being a coward. Being dead, yes. Being a coward, not so much.
That's true. It's difficult to be cowardly when you're surfing waves in Valhalla. Right now, though, Rensga, as expected, are turning onto that first Drake, the Ocean Drake, and Sting is taking a little vacation up in the top side, farming up and trying to get ahead.
Yeah, they didn't have prio in the bot lane. Kaisa versus Xayah. Xayah isn't known to be great early game, and the itemization is sometimes a little bit rough as well for the Xayah early. So they don't have prio bot jungle as well. They don't feel too comfortable. Nidalee, if she gets onto that Graves, can win that, but Froststrike getting real low here.
Oh,
We'll
that
have to smite
smite.
early.
It comes just in time, but you don't have Sting anywhere in the area. If he was going to be, he'd be well and spotted out by then. So you've got the time to do it. You do know that he's topside right now, though, and Kiari paying appropriate respect to that, especially with the level 6 hit by Trucklex, is going to miss out on a lot of experience.
Yeah, that's interesting that we're seeing the Malphite actually zone Camille really hard. Malphite does do decent, like quite well into the Camille early because he is an armor tank, and early on you can kind of poke out the Camille somewhat. But usually due to mana constraints, as you start leveling up a little bit, Camille does really comfortably into the Malphite. So good to see that Trucklex is still kind of imposing his will and getting initiative in that
I,
top lane,
I
but
mean, it's the Malphite with an implied Graves. You know what
yeah,
I'm
that's
saying?
true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The pocket graves in the back, yeah.
Like it's Malphite, and then in super text it's Graves, which is which is what's getting Kiara afraid. I think into the Malphite alone, he's pretty comfortable right now, especially with the Sheen already picked up. He's relatively comfortable and is going to be happy taking these continuous duels as the Camille. What might stop that is the Bramble Vest that Trucklex did just pick up.
Mhm. Yeah, will help to cut a lot of damage and kind of stop the healing as well. I do want to point out though that Camille's Hextech Ultimatum can actually dodge the Unstoppable Force if you time it right.
Hmm.
So depending on how confident Chiari is with this Camille, he can actually completely dominate this matchup. It's one of the reasons why Camille is so highly favored is because the Hextech Ultimatum when time right can dodge a lot of spells. It's almost like a mini Thad pool or Fizz pole. So uh, if if Chiari's confident enough, and I feel like if you're playing CBLOL, you should be confident. It's a league with a lot of really good top laners. Then this lane could potentially swing heavily in Renska's favor.
We'll see if Kiari does end up choosing to go toe to toe with Trucklex, as we know that he can. Question is, does he, like you say, feel confident? Right now, what we can say for sure is that Renska feel confident in starting up the Rift Herald, as Kiari, even if he's not going straight in and dodging all these things, at least has lane pressure, and you can see it right there.
Yep. Bramble Vest, great, good. Bomby Cinder, damage, great. But it's still not quite the same as, giving a Camille a Sheen and letting her a priority of how she wants to engage. Renska doing a great job of controlling the objectives. They got Ocean Drake. Now they're picking up Herald. It really feels like Sting has just kind of ceded tempo and control in the early game over the way of Renska. And when your lanes aren't exactly winning either, it's not ideal to just slowly lose sort of in multiple areas and just let the other team get control of the tempo. But they do have a good team fight. So maybe they're just waiting for a team fight.
And you're going to be waiting a little while until Renska decide to give you one of those, because right now they haven't decided to group up as 5 to contest any of these objectives. It has just been slowly pressuring out Cruzeiro with lane presence, and it's netted Sting a significant chance to pick up a lot of CS, but he hasn't been able to make the most of it in this time. Only ahead 2 CS on Italy.
Yeah, and if you look across the lanes, it's pretty much the same situation. Like it's very even in everywhere except that top lane for Chiari, and that's Renska favored. So Cruzeiro, you know, it's on them to make an early move. Renska can afford to sit back and let Chiari eventually outscale Trucklex, get that side lane pressure, and good quick draw away from Sting there. That's an ultimate blown from Cleon.
That's twice now that Renska has decided that if you're shopping, you die. And Cruzeiro maybe shopping in inopportune spots, but they aren't getting caught out by it at the very least. Enga though, getting a little bit caught out by some damage from Nosferis, could just go down
Oh,
here very, very low. Flash
he's gonna
available
die
for
if he
both,
sticks around.
but he dashes away
Oh.
and manages to live.
The cooldown there was less than a second for the Dark Sphere from Nosferis there. If that had shown up, he would have died. Risky play from Enga, unnecessarily risky there. And that's why I'm not a huge fan of
Uh,
Yone into Syndra.
Unnecessarily risky, but isn't that what we brought Enga in for? He retains his own flash, has the ignite, and by God, the style points not losing anything there.
I can't argue with that. I mean, they wanted
I'm
to change, and
so
that's a change.
happy. Clown's roaming up top as well, so this might be the real death sentence into Trucklex. They should be looking for this wave clear. Trucklex, you need to back off, my man.
Yeah, but we've seen this song and dance before, and trying to dive like a post 6 Malphite's always super risky as well because he can always turn on you with the unstoppable force. I am expecting Shelly maybe topside to try and get the plates. They've got about a minute and a bit, and if there's one lane you can find an advantage, it's top lane. Hawks here though.
Yeah, Cruzeiro have decided to double down on the defense here. Trucklax is getting away from under tower, but Rensga, respecting that, will back away themselves. You've pulled Sting up towards the top side while the Dragon was spawning. That actually gives Rensga the chance to respond.
Yeah, I think they saw both Nosferus and Sting coming up as well, realized that if they actually start that dive, they would not have a numbers advantage for any significant amount of time. So they do end up pulling off. And they're just starting like a gang squad here. They're just roaming around. Froststrike and Cleon, forget your support. It's double jungle at this point. They're just going around together here. And it looks like Hawk's just gonna join the party use thing as well. So both these teams grouping up a little bit early here. Cruzeiro might be able to find themselves a team fight, but they won't have Trucksack for it because no TP available for him.
And I really like that. I love that you bring it up right at the end there. As much as Renska do not get the kill, they force the TP out of Trucklax once again around this dragon spawn. Kiari doesn't have his either for just a little while, and that means that it's actually even right now. With Trucklax walking down, we might still manage to see a 5v5 here. Enga whiffs the Fate sealed, and Clown whiffing his own does manage to land the ultimate. Nosferus could be burning down here. He does get a shield on the way out, does Enga, but Nosferus should not burn down. There's the re-engaged Trucklax, the double knock of the bounce house. Froststrike almost goes down. Clyon does dodge the collateral damage and lets his jungler eat it instead, and Kiari needs to pull himself out with the hook shot. Trigo's nowhere to be found, and Cruzeiro find a pick.
Oh, yeah, there's your sell points right there from Enga trying to force that. And I think it actually ends up costing them a lot. They didn't need to fight that. There was no advantage to necessarily trying to fight that. When they didn't get Nosferus, they just needed to back up, but they opt to stick around, and they're not on the same page. Solar Flare goes down. The full up was late. Enga whiffing, they weren't really in position to full up. And throughout the entire fight, that was a 4v4 or 4v5. Trigo didn't bother leaving lane at all.
That was the craziest part, is that, like, even though it was so clearly a contest from Renziga, the fact that they couldn't get their AD carry involved really lost them that fight. Trucklax, very nice ultimate, of course, very nice coordination with Hawk, but not having your AD carry is a death sentence.
Yeah, but that's the other problem too, though, right? Like, how's Trigo supposed to get there? There's not a lot of great vision in that area trying to walk past the dragon pit. You know Sting's there. You've seen Sting go in and out of there. And you knew PBO was also in the area. So it would have been a 1v2 for Trigo blind trying to walk through that. By the time they know it's safe, the mid lane fight had already started. So it's really rough. And this is why League of Legends is a team game. You need to play to your strengths, escort your carries. They're carries for a reason. And usually you babysit them with the support for a reason. So as much as I love the roaming supports, sometimes they need to be roaming with the ADC rather than on their own.
Yeah, you got to pick him up saying, no, not one more minion today. Right now, we get you kills. Unfortunately, that not happening is a big part of the reason why I didn't say, oh my god, Trigo was really the detriment in that fight, because he wasn't. You're right, he can't move on his own, and it's going to require a lot more coordination from Rensga around a player that we already have sung the praises of. Trigo is a standout player on Rensga from week one that we know can succeed. It's just a question of when.
Yeah, for all that, House is the one who does the most damage on the team. A lot of times they don't win if Trigo is there. So is not there, pardon me. So they need Trigo into these fights here. Now Herald is up. We didn't get to see a big team fight, in the Dragon Pit, but now maybe we see it at Herald. The big ultimates are up right now for pretty much everyone here, but Rensga late to the party again.
Yeah, they're not quite in position to contest this. Herald and Trucklax is going to have the collapse. Kiari starts it off, and Clyon goes into the middle of 3, pops the Eclipse, but does go down. Very nice Fate sealed. Finds Sting, doesn't quite finish him off. Kiari is there for that, though. PBO forced to flash away, but the flash forward from Kiari should pick up Nosferus. Gets knocked out of his own Hextech ultimatum, but survives. Trucklax still has the ultimate, but this would be a little bit of an odd one. Does instead go for Kiari, who dives his own AD carry, but he has the backup of Enga to clean that up. Now Trucklax gets to beat Trigo to death slowly, without mercy. This will be the end almost of an AD carry, with Froststrike showing up. Nice flash from Trucklax, picks him up, and that is pure suffering for Trigo, but fortunately the ace for Rensga.
Okay, was it actually the ace? I think?
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if if Sting had respawned in time there because it was really close. So the start of this fight was really rough for Renska. Cleon died, no surprise there. The follow-up, though, is pretty massive. And it's actually Renska pulling the trigger. No Malphite ultimate. It's Tree going to the backline, Chiari going to the backline, Frost Strike diving. They all do great here. And this is a horrific loss here for the side of Cruzeiro. Chiari trades their life for 2 worth. What happens after here, though, is I feel like
This is
a
suffering.
consolation prize. Yeah, this is suffering for
Uh,
Trico. But
like,
it's a great flash from Trucklax. And considering how we were criticizing how passive he was, the fact that he flashed forward rather than back, that I appreciate. Now, I need him to press his R a little bit sooner next time.
okay, so I knew that this was a thing, and I knew that's exactly what the audience is thinking as well. But Renska are the ones that, in my opinion, this is just me talking. The Renska are the ones that are to be praised for the fact that Trucklax could not pull his ultimate there, because you talked about how it started off bad for Renska, Clion dying. Trucklax was following Chiari. He wasn't in range of an ultimate for any sort of peel or even backline access all the way up until the end where he walked himself up under that turret. It was just pure tempo from Renska that was winning them that, and Trucklax needs to be aggressive. We saw it right there, you're right, but that was a time that Renska denied him that opportunity.
True. And right now, it looks like Renska has just forfeited this dragon right here. They saw the teleport come down for Trucklax and immediately pings into the top turret. Chiari doesn't want to fight this. And honestly, I don't think it's a bad call. I think Renska, like you said, if Trucklax was zoned out, I don't think they could zone him out this time. So rather than that, they'll take 2 turrets to their name. Herald being dropped as well. That's going to be mid lane outer going down.
You should be right now. We've got a little bit of health to work with here. Just barely surviving, but it's on slivers of HP. We'll call that one over. The important thing for me is that Chiari gets this top lane turret. He can now go elsewhere and get other pieces of gold that are lying across the map. Trucklax might be able to trade this on the bot side. And so, instead, the call from Renska is to all in.
They're gonna keep on pushing, it looks like, but we do see PBO Hawk coming up already. Cleon and Frost are doing a good job of clearing everything up so they can rotate top or mid. And now Nosferus.
Could get dove here, gets slowed and should be stunned. Very nice scat of the week, but the flash forward from Clion, he wants to commit. The rest of his team is not on the same page. Trigo goes in with the killer instinct, gets bopped away by Hawk, who is now puzzled as to what on earth Renska were doing.
We're trying to get kills. They get the turret at least, so not a complete loss there, but they didn't manage to kill Nosferus. They burnt the Ignite as well. They come out on the losing end of that Summoner's trade here. And you know what? At least both teams are making moves here, which they're setting up properly. They're not just like deciding, hey, let's just randomly decide to do this. They're trying to set up for it, even though the execution keeps going just ever so slightly awry.
Yeah, it's just a little bit off, but you try enough times, you'll find it. We've got the gold graphs up right now. Top 3 are Renska, as they found themselves at only a 2k gold lead, but it's in 3 individual roles, and surprisingly, Trigo topping some of that list.
Yeah, and I not only is it the top 3 are all Renska, but let's put this in context. The only person not on the top half of that list is Cleon, and that's the support, which is understandable. So Renska, small, ever so slight leads, which aren't translating yet into items. But if they continue this pace, those leads will hopefully grow a little bit. No more heralds to pick up though, so no more cheap gold. And it's going to be barons and dragons from here on out. So Cruzeiro's composition should start shining now anytime they start fighting around a neutral objective.
We're expecting that to be soon, right? We're expecting Cruzeiro to be the ones that are ready for the team fight, as we already saw around that last dragon that Renska didn't really want to take it. Trigo, though, does pop the killer instinct for the shield there and just saves his life. Clion, though, was prepared to peel for his AD carry, who surprisingly didn't need it and now takes a bunch of damage in return. Fortunately, Eclipse is a really good int stopper.
Yep. Well, at higher levels. We already saw early on, Unbreakable is a little bit tankier, but definitely it's starting to get up there. And Trigo lived this time, but they traded Flash and Heal for it. So next time this happens, next time Nosferus decides to press R, Trigo is going to have a much rougher time of it.
Yeah, this game is only going to become more difficult for Kaisa, and the person who's got to step up to cover that for her is Enga. Which sounds really weird because you're thinking that it's the peel, but Enga, I was looking for him to be very aggressive this game, and it's been a tough
Mhm.
one to do, but he's still got room in which to perform his role and push Renzga to that next level of competition.
Yeah, I mean, you don't pick a Yone to just sit back, right? Like, you need to get ahead. You need to find picks and kills with that Yone, or else you kind of falling apart. That said, though, it is going to be bot lane outer turret going down. That's all the outers down right now for Cruzeiro. And if we look at the vision, the almost majority of the vision, not almost all of it, but majority of it is certainly blue. And more importantly, it's set up around Baron here. Bot side river is just completely dark for both teams.
Yeah, I do like that we have a little cheeky word in here for Cruzeiro, sitting around the brush there next to Dragon, so we'll see the rotations. Trucklax has found Froststrike, who should be able to get out, has his own flash available, and will walk his way out of there, down a summoner, albeit.
Yeah, and at this point of the game, that Malphite ultimate, the cooldown's roughly a minute and a half here. So when Dragon spawns, no Malphite ultimate. There's a small window Renska could look to just brute force and rush down that Dragon here.
They're looking to brute force Hawk, which is a little bit of an unfortunate choice. God, that's so BM, actually. What?
That emote. I mean, it's
Hawk,
fair.
of all of the players, Hawk has had the most on-point emote game. Pops the Unbreakable Will. And as much as emote game has been on point, that's another big cooldown that won't be up for Dragon. If there's going to be a
Mhm.
team fight that goes in Renska's favor, it's going to be this one.
Yep. Unbreakable Will, though, from Hawk is down. So right now, a lot of trades and ultimates. And I feel like Cruzeiro, while they had the stronger team fight, is now a little, has to be careful.
Yeah, Kiari's looking for him here. Hawk, not nearly as
Easy
tanky as he
pick up.
was before, finally eats it for the emote game, and that's going to be Renska turning what looks like the Dragon. I was watching the map here as the call from Cruzeiro could have been this Baron, but instead of splitting the map, Renska will make sure that that does not happen.
Yeah, they don't want to risk, potentially
Sharkflex
just
has ult.
losing a Baron.
Right now. There we go.
There we go. But unfortunately, the team wasn't quite in position and just a little bit off there. They do have to be careful, though, because they know Cruzeiro that Dragon hasn't gone down yet. So they could potentially just burn for it. But we do see Chiari going to back up Froststrike to make sure they don't accidentally get it stolen away from them.
Admittedly, not a whole lot of damage just yet. Fortunately, does manage to secure that one, as it would have been really unfortunate if Renska had accidentally lost that dragon. They've tied themselves up, though. It is, for all intents and purposes, an even game, excluding 3k gold that is spread across the members of Renska, and that's a pretty small margin when you think about it.
Yeah, and I always like to look at gold as an indicator of roughly who's in the lead, but items to me are more important because you can have all the gold in the world. Like if you play ARAMs and you sit with 4k gold in your pocket, it means absolutely nothing. So if we look at sort of the item spike points across the board here, they're not actually too far apart for the most part. So it's mostly sitting on, I feel like, just a scattering of like half items for across the board for Renska. So in a team fight, they're not actually that strong. You don't have one player who must die immediately. Of course, if you can kill Enga or you can kill Trigo, that helps a lot. But it's not as if everything's on one player right now. And it looks like Renska is content to continue splitting the map, split pushing Chiari and Enga constantly inside lanes separate from the rest of the team, finding these turrets.
And with Froststrike shadowing Chiari, he knows that he's totally safe to abuse the lane dominant power of Camille and continue getting these turrets. Right now, you can even feel comfortable taking trades with Trucklax, as he so clearly does. That means there's no Baron pressure for Cruzeiro because they, unlike Renska, don't have vision on Froststrike.
Yep, and the vision game from Cruzeiro has been complicated, shall we say. I think they have a lot of vision, but it's in somewhat odd places. Like here you can see Cruzeiro's vision. It's not in the river. They're not warding the neutral objectives. They're not in their own side of the map. It's in the enemy top quadrant, the enemy blue buff side. And my big question is, why? Are you intending to play around there? Right now, you aren't on the offense. You're not the proactive side. You're not pushing past river all that much. And most of the time, you're on your own side. So maybe you should be trying to catch people in rotation. They do, however, manage to get in to get blue buffs. So I guess that's what all the vision was for. 4 wards, 2 control wards for a blue buff. Eh.
It might net them a little bit less than that, actually, as we are finally getting a spot on the jungler, which starts off a fight.
Oh,
Enga
Enga.
finds two in the Fate Sealed, takes down Nosferus before he can even press his ult, and now Sting gets flashed on by Clion, does not have a chance to play the game, but Clion will, of course, in classic Clion fashion, die for it. Trigo looking for the kill on
Kiari's
PBO.
coming.
Gale Force is not going to get him far enough away. Flash forward as Enga goes on a killing spree, and Sting, very low HP, is being hunted by the woman with the blade legs, and there's only one way that this ends today.
Oh,
Wow,
he's getting
actually,
away.
wait a minute. Wait a minute. I
Minion?
am no. Kiari's got this.
Minions?
Kiari's got this. It's like one more hook shot till Sting is dead.
Oh, man.
They're playing with his fit. Oh my god.
Oh,
Ace
the
executed.
minions!
What? This game's insane.
Ah.
This game's insane. But more importantly, Sting is insane.
Oh, I feel like we can tack on now like another stat to Sting, highest minion death leader right now.
That was really crazy. I cannot believe that he got the execution there. This is what we missed in top lane, or rather bot lane, as everything else was happening, was a very hilarious interaction between the Hextech Ultimatum and the Unstoppable Force, wherein Trucklax ultimately did not find it nearly as hilarious as Renska.
Yeah, and I guess Camille Ultimate just counters Malphite in multiple ways here. You can dodge the Unstoppable Force, you can lock down the Unstoppable Force. Unstoppable Force, not so unstoppable after all. It rubber bands back into the Hextech Ultimatum, which is actually pretty amusing, but that was just kind of just a side play. The main deal was that they won a 3v4 fight. And that is huge for Renska because I think now they can comprehensively say that we're okay with team fights. We'll take even numbers. We just won one with uneven numbers, and we've got Baron, and we're pushing in, and we've got a bunch of gold in our pocket.
And a lot of that was off the back of Enga, who found a very, very nice Fate Sealed. That is exactly the look that you're hoping for when you bring somebody new into the roster like this, is that is not something that I see House going for in any day of the week.
I don't know, man. I still feel like being a little harsh on House, but fair enough. Enga, I mean, he's
I,
been really quiet all game, so I'm
it,
I'm glad to see that he's actually doing this. If not, yeah, if not, that Enga call out wouldn't work.
listen, it's not that House is bad. It's that he's like, he plays passively and everybody else on Renska plays passively. And yeah, I have thoughts on it. They're not for now though, as the dragon is started up, and Renska certainly are going to want this one, but unfortunately don't have a lot to say about it. Instead, maybe just looking to stop the backs while they end up taking the mid lane inhibitor, and that is a trade that you're happy with.
For sure, it's looking a bit like the
Oh my
beginning of
god,
the end here. Yeah, that Divine Thunder is certainly doing work in
this is
Struckbox.
divine.
I mean, yeah, is Malphite considered a rock god? I mean, he's a living rock organism, but he's pretty strong.
He kind of, I would say he's a rock god. If he's the one sentient rock running around here, able to like talk and stuff, Kiari is going to use the Hextech Ultimatum to dodge out on a bit. Actually ends up going back in, almost taking out Sting, and living at the
Oh,
end of that with a re-engage with the Malphite Ultimate. Fate Sealed over the
they
wall,
found
finds
Kiari.
Nosferus one more time. Enga still has the damage to deal and does take out the opposing mid laner while Clion continues to
Good
run
deep,
forward.
Clion.
It is always Clion going forward, but this time he doesn't have Kiari in his pocket to back him up, and so we'll have to back away. Renska, though, do get 2 inhibitors for this.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage for themselves. They can now just group up and push the bot side. And even when they lost Kiari there, they still at least managed to trade back 1-for-1. So things are looking real dire here for Cruzeiro. And I'm frankly not even sure how they can come back necessarily. Because so far, it feels like the Unstoppable Forces haven't been hitting a lot of people, like 2 people, 3 people, tops,
Hmm.
max, and you're not catching Enga and Trigo, pardon me, together, which is the other problem. Because if you catch one, great. The other one's just pumping out damage, and both of them can shred through even the likes of Trucklax right now.
It's also worth saying that the Unstoppable Force is very rarely a go button for Cruzeiro. It is a re-engage. It is after they disengage, they're like, okay, now we can fight. Trucklex finally has the angle, but at that point, you've more than likely lost a member.
Yeah, and if you go in and you can only trade 1-for-1 with that, then you're already on the back end because every member of Renska is a little bit stronger. Last time we checked in, they were about half an item ahead across the board. This time they're looking like they're a full item ahead in most cases, maybe an item and a half in some of these players' cases. So that item lead is now significantly bigger. Trading one for one won't necessarily be enough when you've got a team fighting composition. You need to get more with that initial upfront burst from the Malphite, from the Syndra. PBO right now, a lot is on his shoulders to be able to try and pump out sustained damage, make these trades a little bit more even here.
There's no inhibitor right now, and Kiari can just end the game if he's left unattended. If you pull that one thing that you need to press go on a team fight away to actually start the team fight, you could just lose here. So you've got to be sure that you make it. Enga definitely makes it himself, forces the ultimate out of PBO, but Clan keeps going in. Killer Instinct cleans him up, and Hawk now flashing away as well. Trucklax invested the unstoppable force, but didn't quite find the knockups, and Cruzeiro back away with no ADC and no ultimates left.
And with supers running into their base here, they're just going to abandon the bot side.
Oh my lord! Enga goes for it, finds the double knockup, finds the double fate sealed, finds the end of the game as the cleanup is there. Cruzeiro fall, only losing one for Renska, as Trigo unfortunately will not be able to participate in the end of the game, but my lord, does it look beautiful. Renska walk away with the win.